you typed your last set of notes. Most people do. You probably typed them fast, got everything down, felt productive. Then a week later, you couldn't remember half of it. That is not a memory problem. That is a processing problem. And the device you used to take notes is the reason. Here is what the research actually shows about what happens in your brain when you write by hand versus when you type. In 2014, psychologists Pam Mueller and Daniel Oppenheimer ran a study at Princeton University. They split students into two groups. One group took notes on laptops. The other group took notes by hand. Then both groups were tested on the material. On factual recall, dates, names, definitions, the groups performed about the same. But on conceptual questions, the kind that asked them to explain ideas, apply information, or connect concepts, the handwriters scored significantly higher. The laptop note-takers had more notes. They had typed nearly 3 times as many words. They had everything written down, and they still understood less. Mueller and Oppenheimer called the effect the laptop note-taking paradox. More information captured, less information retained. The reason comes down to what your brain is doing during each method. Typing is fast enough that your brain does not have to process the information. You hear a sentence, your fingers transcribe it, and nothing is synthesized. It is data entry. The words pass through you and into the screen without ever stopping in your mind long enough to be understood. Mueller and Oppenheimer called this non-generative processing. You are recording, not learning. Handwriting is too slow for that shortcut. The average person writes about 25 words per minute by hand. The average lecture runs at 120 to 180 words per minute. That gap forces a choice. Your brain has to decide what matters. It has to compress, paraphrase, summarize, and select. That effort is not an obstacle to learning. That effort is the learning. Mueller and Oppenheimer called this generative processing. The struggle to capture the idea is the act of encoding it. You are not writing down what you learned. You are writing down what you are actively thinking through. It is not just the slowness. The physical act of handwriting does something to your brain that typing does not. Karen James, a neuroscientist at Indiana University, studied young children learning to write letters. She split them into 3 groups. One group traced the letters. One group typed them. One group wrote them freehand. Then she put the children in a memorized scanner and showed them the same letters on a screen. Only the children who had written freehand showed activation in the brain's reading and language network. The same regions adults use when they read and write fluently. Tracing the letters did nothing. Typing the letters did nothing. The free, imperfect, motor-controlled act of forming the letter by hand was the thing that wired the brain to recognize it. This is because each handwritten letter is a unique motor sequence. Your hand must execute a specific sequence of movements to form each character. That motor memory encodes the letter at a deeper level than visual recognition alone. Your hand does not just record the idea. Your hand helps build the neural structure that holds the idea. The real problem with typing is not that it captures too little. It is that it creates the feeling of having learned without the reality of it. Cognitive psychologists call this the fluency illusion. When you read back your own typed notes, the information flows easily. It feels familiar. Your brain registers that familiarity as understanding. But familiarity and comprehension are not the same thing. In Mueller and Oppenheimer's study, students who had typed their notes were given time to review their notes before the test. They had complete, detailed notes to review. It did not close the gap. They still scored lower on conceptual questions. Because reading information back is not the same as having processed it the first time. The handwriters had already done the hard cognitive work during the lecture. The act of writing had already forced them to understand what mattered. Their notes were a reflection of a processed idea, not a transcript of an unprocessed one. When you type, your notes are a backup drive. When you write by hand, your notes are a record of thinking that has already happened. You do not need to stop using your laptop. Different tools serve different purposes. Typing is faster for capturing. Handwriting is better for learning. The mistake is using typing for everything and calling it note-taking when it is actually transcription. Here is a useful distinction. Type when your goal is to capture something you do not need to understand deeply right now. Administrative tasks, meeting minutes, research you will revisit, information you need to store, not learn. Write by hand when your goal is to understand something. Lectures, concepts you are actively studying, ideas you want to internalize, decisions you are working through, and if you have already typed something you need to actually learn. Rewrite it by hand. Do not copy it word for word. Rewrite it. Force yourself to compress it into what matters. That process of re-encoding is itself a learning event. Researchers call it elaborative encoding. You are connecting new information to existing mental structures, which is the mechanism behind long-term retention. Your brain does not learn from what it receives. It learns from what it processes. Mueller and Oppenheimer's original study was published over 10 years ago. Schools read it, conferences cited it, and then most people went right back to taking notes on their laptops. Because typing is comfortable. It feels productive. It produces a document that makes it look like learning happened. But your brain does not care what your notes look like. It cares about what happened to the information while you were taking it. The pen is slow on purpose, the struggle is the point. If this shifted something, subscribe. Next video. Why your brain is worse at multitasking than you think it is.